Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Nate Gustafson, and I consider it such a joy and a privilege to join you each and every week for this hope message. You see, it's my goal each and every week to join you with a word of hope that will fill you with hope so that then you will go and bring hope to the hurting wherever you might go. So, whether today you are a teacher or a preacher, a counselor or a cook, a neuroscientist or a nanny, whoever you are, wherever you might be, I pray that this word of hope will fill your heart with lots and lots of just energy and strength so that you will go out into this world and bring hope to the hurting. So, remember back way in the day, like all the way back before the pandemic even began, when we used to have dinner parties? Remember that? Do you? I mean, we've had our little family core together that we've been doing life throughout the pandemic together, but I can't remember the last time I was at a crowded house of people or last time I was at a large sports gathering or concert with tons and tons of people. You know, our lives have changed so much in the year of the pandemic that it's oftentimes, fun to reminisce and go back to those dinner party days. Well, there's a time and a place all the way, way back when Jesus was oftentimes a guest at a dinner party. And it's often interesting what would happen at those dinner parties. And I want to share a couple stories with you today that I feel are hope and inspiring stories for you to hold on to because there's hope found at when we take heart and take the opportunity to receive forgiveness and grace from Jesus. And it's oftentimes in the setting of dinner parties that Jesus would give these words: take heart, you are forgiven. Grace was extended, a second chance was extended, acceptance was extended, love was extended, being known was extended, opportunity was extended. So Jesus would be at these parties, he'd be surrounded with all these people, and it might be a crowded little house with 5 or 6 people together, or it might be a great big, area where people were spread out all over the place. And one time while Jesus was at a party, it says that there were these friends that were four friends that were carrying a paralyzed friend on a mat. And in the Gospel of Matthew, it just says that they found Jesus at this house and brought their paralyzed friend to him. But in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 2, we realize this very same story is that they literally dug a hole in the roof of the house where Jesus was and lowered their friend on this mat. Can you imagine being at a party and all of a sudden hearing this noise from up above, and somebody's not only like knocking on a window, but there's like scraping on the roof? It wouldn't be heard of today. We don't have that opportunity in our houses today, but in the ancient world where they, oftentimes use just very simple building materials, they could literally kind of tear apart the thatch house and get in to the center of the attention. And so they literally lowered their friend to the feet of Jesus. And it's like everything stopped. Can you imagine the silence of coming through? Let him down. Okay, Charlie, you grab that end. Nope, Bud, let that end a little lower so we don't drop Steve on his head and get him to so we can get him to the feet of Jesus. And so they lowered him to the feet of Jesus. And instead of being insulted that they're interfering with the party, or instead of, chastising them for ruining this person's house, Jesus looks at this young man and he says, take heart, your sins are forgiven. And I can imagine the gasping that would have taken place. Well, who is this man that says that he can forgive sins? Does he think he's God or something? Well, yes, he is God. He was God in the flesh, the living God, the creator God, the Son of God in the flesh, able to forgive sins. And these religious elites that were always hanging around the periphery, they were always keeping an eye on Jesus to see if his words and his deeds, his actions and his messages were all lining up. And they looked at him and said, who do you think you are? You must be blaspheming, which was literally a capital offense in their religious world. Who do you have authority to say your sins are forgiven? And Jesus looks at these elites and just kind of shakes his head incredulously and says to them, what is easier, to say your sins are forgiven, or to tell this young man to take up his mat and walk and go home? They were speechless. They didn't know what to say. It seemed like a trap to them. Jesus turned to the young man again and said, take heart, your sins are forgiven. Pick up your mat and go home. And it says, instantly he picked up his mat and he went home. I can't even imagine that. Here's the hope that these friends had, the faith of the friends, the faith of the man on the mat, all coming to Jesus at the same time, trusting, believing without a shadow of a doubt that Jesus was who he said he was, and he had the power and the authority to reverse whatever had caused this man to be paralyzed, whether it was a spinal injury, whether it was a birth defect, whether it was an accident, whatever it was. This man was healed and restored to hope and renewal because of their faith and their trust in Jesus, to the point where they'd even tear through the roof to get to the feet of Jesus. Second dinner party. Jesus is walking along and he sees this man named Matthew at the tax collector booth. And these people were not the highest of the highest ranking people in society. In fact, they were very looked down upon. They were very, chastised for, partnering with the Romans to, really thumb down and take their toll on the Israelite community. But Jesus saw right past it. Didn't care a lick about who Matthew was, what his past was, what his present was. Didn't care what he had done in his job that was shady or not shady. He looked at Matthew and said, "Come and follow me. Just come, follow me." And it says Matthew got up and started to follow him. Now, whether Matthew had already heard about Jesus or knew about Jesus or was aware of Jesus or just had this supernatural inclination just to go, we're not sure, but we just know that he went and he followed Jesus. And he followed Jesus to the point where he was comfortable enough to invite all of his friends over for dinner and have Jesus at the party. And again, what a beautiful opportunity. Jesus just doesn't care who he's with. He's with, again, the lowest of the lowest, because the upper class, the professional elitist or the religious high and mighty of the day wouldn't be caught dead having dinner at Matthew's house. So it was the prostitutes, the sinners, the tax collectors, all the people that were, a little lower on that ladder than what typically would be someone of Jesus's status that you think that they would be hanging out with. But Jesus, again, doesn't care a lick, doesn't care at all. And he's hanging out at the party. And these people, that are, again, these religious elites hanging around the periphery, looking in on Jesus, trying to figure out what this guy's up to. And they're challenging him. Well, why are you having dinner at a sinner's house? Jesus says, don't you get it? Don't you get it? It's not the well who need the doctor. It's the sick who need the doctor. And haven't you heard? Don't you know that I desire mercy and not sacrifice? Jesus looked past the periphery and straight to the heart. That's something we can hold on to, friends. Whatever is going on in your life, whatever you do for a living, maybe you've been a frontline worker for the last 12, 14 months through the pandemic. Maybe you've been a nurse or a neonatal intensive ICU doctor. Maybe you've been a paramedic. Maybe you've been a food service worker. Maybe you've been a postal delivery person. Maybe you've been on the front lines of technology, trying to, help everyone do schooling from home and keep the internet up and working. Whatever you are, whoever you are, wherever you are, I know you have a past. I have a past. You have a past. None of us have a perfect past. None of us have a perfect present. None of us know what our future is going to be, but I promise you it's not going to be perfect. And Jesus brings us hope, because just like the man who is lowered down, he looks at the past, the present, the future, and he says, take heart. Take heart. Whatever is in the past is forgiven. Whatever is in the present moment, all I care about is just that it's you and me here in this moment together. All I care about in this moment is your heart. And whatever will happen in the future will happen, but I want to be there with you in the future as it happens. So Jesus says to us, take heart. He offers us hope for our heart. He offers us this gift that says, I don't care about the past. The past is forgiven. The present is all about your heart. And the future is all about faithfully walking with me into whatever unknown, whatever circumstance, whatever darkest valley is ahead of you. It has to do with faith and walking with me step by step by step. And Jesus continued throughout his life, especially in Matthew chapter 9. He continues to go on and he heals a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years just because she touched the edge of his robe, and power came from Jesus to bring her healing. He healed a synagogue leader's child. He was out amongst the people who were broken and beat down and hurting, who had a past, who definitely had a past, who definitely had things going on that might have been a whole graveyard of skeletons in their closet. And he just doesn't care. All he cares about is that present moment that your heart turns to his heart. And then he says to you, take heart, your sins are forgiven. Now you may go. You don't have to be paralyzed any longer. Your dead pieces of your heart can rise to new life. Your paralyzed inability to act and go with the right direction has been healed. He's given you feet now that will work, legs that will move, ideas and intention to power forward. And that's what we have to take a hold of. So take heart, my friends. Take heart. Your past is your past. It's forgiven if your heart connects to Jesus in this present moment. And your future will be forgiven, because whenever you do fall short, whenever you do fail, whenever you do fall down, it will be forgiven as long as you, again, take heart, reach out to Jesus. And if you've experienced that, if you've experienced the wonderful freeing power of forgiveness that comes when you take heart and accept the offer of forgiveness that Jesus gives you, you can join that army. You can join that fellowship of friends who are out there trying to bring hope to the hurting. Because Jesus, at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, it's like we get this pause. We get the movie camera scans back and gets this panoramic view of Jesus looking down to Jerusalem. And he just weeps with compassion because he sees that all these people are broken and beat down and suffering and battered and just left behind and not cared for by the world. And his heart breaks and it weeps for these people. And he says, pray that the harvest, he says, recognize that the harvest is plentiful. The hurting and the suffering and the broken and the bruised is plentiful all around us in 2021, just as it was in AD 21, AD 41, whenever these words were mentioned by Jesus. So friends, take heart. We have to realize that, yes, it's very sad and overwhelming that suffering and pain is everywhere, but take heart, because the past can be left in the past and it can be forgiven. Your present moment, you can tune in and touch the heart of Jesus. Your future can be filled with hope as you follow Jesus faithfully. But remember, Jesus looks out at the crowd and he says, take heart, take heart. The harvest is plentiful. There's plenty of opportunity here, but pray, take heart and pray that the Lord will send harvesters into the field. So friends, that's what I want to leave you with today. If you're feeling like you're left out, like you're all alone, like you're broken and you're bruised and you're battered, come to the feet of Jesus. Come to the feet of Jesus and take heart. Your past can be left in the past. This present moment can be filled with hope as you take heart and you come to the feet of Jesus. And once you come to the feet of Jesus and he invites you to pick up your mat and walk, as he invites you to the dinner party, as he laughs with you and jokes with you and smiles at you and loves you tenderly and deeply, know that you can join him in praying for a harvest, praying for the suffering to be alleviated, by workers to be plentiful and that can go and bring hope to the hurting. Because unfortunately, there's plenty of hurt in this world. But take heart. Jesus has come to bring hope to your hurt. If you found this to be at all helpful, encouraging, would you please subscribe? Would you please share this? And stay tuned as each week we bring a word of hope to you so you may be filled with hope and then go out and bring hope to the hurting wherever you might be. Thanks so much again for joining me, everybody.